Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our very lovely regular breakfast show Thursday morning. It's bright and early, not so bright, but pretty early. Welcome to the next episode of our uni TV show, and my name is Nick Looby, and I'm joined as always by Mr. David Bell. Hi, David. How are you?
Good morning, world. Good morning, Nick. Hello to everybody joining us this morning. Well, yeah, you're right, Nick. The sun's not shining, but it will break through. The sun is due out later on today, according to my weather forecast app. Anyway, been a busy week, Nick. We've been here, there, and everywhere. Well, virtually anyway, from the comfort of our own virtual studio, working from home still. How is it? Your background there is looking great, Nick. It looks pretty bleak there. Not too many people in the office.
Yeah, nobody's in, mate. Nobody's in. I was doing a workshop yesterday, and people said, "Well, you got a really nice office." I said, "Yeah, it'd be nice if there was people in the office."
Yeah.
How
you finding it?
I agree, mate. Busy week. I'm sensing things are kind of rolling with a bit more momentum. Of course, one eye on the news, one eye on what's going on. But, got my eye on Monday, the retail or the hospitality opening up, going indoors for a pint. I'm looking forward to that. It seems as though we are still making progress, gentle, cautious progress. And I can sense that in the kind of business conversations that I'm having out there.
Yeah, I got my first face-to-face client on-site meeting next week for a whole day. So Tuesday the 18th, and really kind. Been working with this guy a number of months now, and he's even gone and booked us a pub lunch, which I thought was, Mr. Generous, and thank you very much, because I can't remember the last time I went in a pub. It was probably 15, 16, 17 months ago, as it may be for many of us. So I'm looking quite forward to that. Okay, I'm going to be on a shandy because I'm going to be driving, but the fact is, just to see how things have changed and how things are developing out there in the real world. But it's all about business. It's seeing how we can change, how we can pivot, how we can adapt to an ever altering and developing world.
Yeah, one thing you learn in business is it never really stands still, does it? You stand still at your peril. So as we've learned over the last number of weeks with our various different guests, everybody is reasonably kind of mobile in this business world. Something happens, we react. Kind of keeping your eyes ahead. Some things you can't see coming, of course, but other things, you stay pretty mobile, pretty agile. This week, David, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. So there'll be quite a few conversations with our guests and with ourselves around mental health awareness. The more open about it we are, the more we talk about it, the more brave and courageous we are about bringing this subject out to the fore, the better it gets. And it's heartwarming, the fact that it's no longer a subject that we have to kind of hide behind. We can happily talk about mental health, how it's affecting us, how it's affecting those we know, and especially in business, right? It's tough, right? It's tough. We know it's tough. So it would be wrong of us not to bring kind of a mental health discussion into this forum.
Absolutely, and we have one of our guests on later in the hour who will be talking a little bit more about mental health and about how for people to adapt and to be able to reach out and speak about, sometimes it's the challenging times that we face alone, and sometimes sharing, is spreading that load, and people want to listen, people want to help, and it is an important factor. Here's a question. It might not be a question you can answer, but we'll put it to our guests later. Going back a number of years, the term mental health meant something very, very different. And, to a degree, did we really talk about it enough then? I'm talking maybe going back 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Has, by talking about it, kind of brought it more to the surface? Are people happy to talk about it themselves and share? Or has mental health become more over the past years because the demands on us as humans has become greater? the work pressure has become greater. The surroundings, keeping up, I'm going to use the words, keeping up with the Joneses has become greater. You know, you've got to perform. Have we changed? Has it always been the same, or have things developed to allow it to come to the surface? And it'll be an interesting, you know, an opinion. Is really what we're looking for.
And I think it's a great question, right? Because I back in the day, if you know, you knew of someone, or you'd have a conversation with people, and they had mental health issues, it would be in hushed tones. Well, he's a bit, you know, something, you know, and you wouldn't really approach the subject. You would work around the subject. Okay, so it's absolutely right that it's a subject that is openly discussed. Okay, because it definitely needs to be. But I think you're right. I think it's on the increase. Okay, not only more visible because we're talking about it, but I think the way the world is, I think there are more mental health issues now than perhaps there was. I might be wrong, right? It's just my opinion. And this could be my view on the negative sides of some of our technology not helping. You know, the early results are in and they don't look good, certainly for our younger audience. So I think it's two things. We didn't talk about it enough back then. Now we're able to talk about it. I think it is on the rise. Yeah, I think there's more issues than there were.
Yeah, so it'd be really interesting to get the input from both of our guests this morning. Both have got scenarios, stories that they will be able to share. But before we introduce our first guest and bring him on the show this morning, sitting patiently back in the green room, ready and roaring to go. I can see him there sitting, just finishing off his last sip of espresso before we bring him onto the live platform. Let's talk about XE, Nick. A great event. Some of you listening and watching this may have already been along and been part of the XE event. It's a virtual expo that's being run all this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So day 3 today, the last day. The closing ceremony is around 4 o'clock today. And we've been doing the breakfast chat show. Tell our viewers, Nick, what we've been up to this week on XE.
Well, we've been having great conversations. That's how we roll, mate. Right? We've been given a bit of a forum and a bit of an opportunity for visitors, exhibitors, sponsors, speakers to come on the show and just talk to us about what it is they do, what they're doing at the show, how they're finding it. And as our first guest on the chat show, on the XE chat show on Tuesday, said, we are kind of entering a brave new world of virtual eventing, virtual conference and exhibition. It looks really cool. Really enjoyed the experience. And it's been great just kind of having these kind of conversations with multiple businesses. As always, learning loads.
Yeah, learning loads. So if you're interested, coming along and joining the final day of XE, it is free to sign up to. You just need to go to xe.co.uk, register yourself a ticket. It's all done virtually, so it's all pinged on an email to you. You can then sign in from the comfort of your own home, or if you're back in the office or wherever, you could be sitting in the car. As long as you have a device that's connected to the internet, you are able to join the XE show and go around the virtual auditorium, listen to great speakers. And also you can go in and go around and see all the virtual booths, the stands, have chats with the exhibitors, and there's some workshops running. You've got a workshop running today, Nick, this morning, I believe.
I certainly have, my friend, 11 o'clock until 11:40. How do we get through the digital noise? It's very much a modern zombies approach to communication. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's I do love a good workshop because it gives me an excuse to have great conversations with people, ask some tough questions, and learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested, firstly, get signed up to xe.co.uk, exe.co.uk, and come along and be part of that. But do join us at the XE virtual official as well. I'm going to put that word there, official breakfast show. We go live at 9:30. So you'll need to sign up, join the XE, or you can watch it on the Uni TV channels as well. We are streaming out to our channels, so you can join in and watch the interviews as they unfold on the breakfast show there as well this morning. A double whammy this morning.
We're in two places. Bricky.
I don't know if I should be changing my shirt for the next show, but I'll just wardrobe,
we'll see.
do the hair and stuff like that. Anyway, let's get our first guest on this morning. Super excited. We met this special guest yesterday, actually. He come on to the Exy Breakfast Show, and he's got such a story to tell. I reached out to him and said, Lee, do you want to come on the show and share your story with our viewers this morning? Because I think there's something for everybody to take away from this. Please welcome to the show, Lee Strachan. Good morning, Lee.
Morning, Nick. Morning, David. How are you? Smelling the coffee?
I've got tea actually this morning. I will switch to coffee in a little while, but I fancied a cup of Rosie Lee, and that's what's in the mug this morning. Chilling down, actually. I need to probably have a drink, but I'm going to sit there and drink that while you tell us, Lee, a little bit about yourself. And I think you've got a very interesting story to share about how your life kind of turned upside down a number of years ago, and you found yourself living on the streets. Tell us a little bit more. How did that happen, and how did it feel?
Yes, it all began. Well, it was, first of all, it was very unexpected. Now, like most of us, where we're living our everyday lives, regular income coming in, settled into your home, and just enjoying life as such. Obviously, the ups and downs are part of it. That's what I was exactly doing. And it was a matter of a short space of a week of me working that I got pulled into my former job, going back some years back, into the manager's office, that my role was going to be cut redundant. So that's what happened. No redundancy payout of it at the time, so nothing to kind of string me along for that. Just keep my head above water. And lost my job. And it was a difficult time to even find another job because of the amount of competition out there as well. All going for the same job. You've got like 50, 100, 200, 300 applicants going for the one job. So you kind of sit like in a 5 to 10% bracket of being successful out of that, with many jobs, that is. And that's what happened. I was unfortunately unsuccessful on trying to get hold of a job. It got sinister to the point where it became where I got into arrears with my rent at the time. And it got to the point where it wasn't affordable anymore. And I went down the eviction route, got evicted out of my old flat down the bottom of Southend near the seafront. As a result, not got any family in the area, all international in the States and Jamaica. That forced me onto streets and living on the streets with what I had. I lost all my possessions, part of that, because I had nowhere to put it. All I had was a pair of clothes, and first couple of days would have been fine for food, but obviously after that point, it was a matter of a struggle for food and relying on others as such, just to try and survive. So it all began just from a simple thing as just losing your job. Now, some people may take that as an advantage and kind of live a simple life and think that can never happen, but everything's possible, and your life can turn upside down in a matter of minutes, hours, even days, just so quickly, where it's so hard to turn it back round again, and it takes a lot longer to turn it back round again.
And you've clearly have done, mate, right? So you've gone from a very unfortunate position, right? And loads of our listeners will be in a similar position, been made redundant at some point. I know I have. Bad enough, right? Never good time, bad enough. But then to struggle to the point where you think, right, well, I've got next to nothing and I'm on the blooming streets. Just crazy hard. But you're not on the streets now, mate. You've pulled it back. Whatever magic you've worked, you've turned that around. How did that happen?
Well, there was one day that I thought I'd dress up as Harry Potter, you see, and get my broomstick out. Did you have a broomstick? Yeah, you did, yeah. And wave my magic wand, and it all just happened. But jokes aside, it was I was on the streets quite a vary of time. It didn't happen overnight, and as mentioned previously, it was a matter of months for me to kind of see the light as such, and kind of get a bit of stability going, obviously with cash flow. I was relying on others to put food in my mouth, of course, because I had no money coming in for myself, had no roof over my head. I was actually physically living on the streets in West Cliff and the South End area, in the traditional cardboard boxes as they call it, to try and keep warm, and sleeping bags. So yeah, the first half it was quite rough, and it kind of, you can call it, it was like a spark, a little click in my head that kind of triggered all the things that I wanted to do with myself, some goals, inspirations as such, and that surrounded working within IT. Long term, that's what I've always wanted to do from when I was a little boy. Not so much running a business when I was a little boy, but I had them ambitions to, in my teen years and early adult years, of doing that. And it came to the point, any money that I was taking in, obviously with feeding myself at the same time, I was putting money aside in it and building it up over a series of, I think it was about 3.5, 4 months, just so I had a stability of cash flow there sitting there to prepare me. And the light shone as such, where a good friend of mine, which I'm still in contact with, that was homeless on the street, reached out to me. Well, in fact, walked past me, embarrassingly. And he put his hand out to me to put a roof over my head as such, to get kind of looked at as the Golden Gate, you can call it. And it was in Eastwood. Now, he was homeless in Southend also, so he's been on that journey himself, and he's pulled himself up through that journey as well. So it was kind of a godsend, really. And it was from that point onwards I was able to get myself officially registered again against an address, which is the biggest mountain climb of what many homeless people struggle with, because if you haven't got a registered address, you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
As such, everyone relies on a registered address. Job centres, all these places do. So that's why a lot of these people can't get the lift off as such. And that's exactly what happened. It enrolled me to have the opportunity to go back out there, look for work, get some decent clothes on me as well, with the money that I was building up as well, alongside the survival mode I was in. But in a way, obviously, the experience, the early experience through to probably about the very end, it was very, very dark. It's kind of like you're stuck in your own little vortex, and that's what a lot of the homeless people tend to be in. And trying to get out of that vortex is near to impossible, because you're just constantly going round and round and round all the time. And one approach to that, which helped me pull out of that, was not relying too much on others. And to elaborate on that was, for example, sheltered housing, the charity services obviously that go out and obviously support the homeless with food, because I call this ease of comfort, and it is comfort for a homeless person, where I would have been myself, having them experiences, because you're looking for anything possible to actually keep you going, is a dream as such. Yeah. Rather than having an Apple iPhone, getting your first Apple iPhone costs £1,000. That's a dream if you've got money. So I call that the sense of comfort as such, because if I got myself involved in that, knowing myself best, I would have got settled down into that environment, because I would have been happy with it. I'm getting food, I'm getting a warm bed to sleep on a sheltered accommodation, and that's what I call the vortex as such. Probably about 8% of the homeless people that live in that environment, in them environments, they're happy in their environments.
Yeah.
But I led the hard way of it.
So how did you start to turn it around? So you got this, as you say, a great friend reach out to you, put a roof over your head, gave you somewhere to become you again, become registered, so you could start to build. You wanted to be into IT, so obviously it was something that was there, a passion, and then you started to do some local work, build out, find some customers, and it just started to grow and develop from there. And it's morphed into a group now. So just kind of bring us kind of up to a bit more modern day about the company and tell us a little bit more about what you do as an IT company and how you developed it to where you are today over a couple of years, really, isn't it? It's really kind of morphed over the last 2 or 3 years.
It is, yeah. And the business has gone fast, 100 miles an hour since then. But the business started with just myself, and it wasn't a limited when it first started off. I started off as an individual worker, as a sole trader as such. And yes, as you've mentioned correctly, I was picking up little jobs here and there, on the early days of the business. Most of that was in the city, because where I was able to build my stability back up again, I was able to afford to travel, of course, part of that, in part. And also picking up through a lot of mutual contacts, some cash in hand jobs as well at that point in time. And obviously when I managed to get a bank account, it pushed into bank accounts. It wasn't until probably about 6 months to a year later, I took it obviously to the next level and registered through as a limited, under its former name, Galactica IT Solutions Limited. And it was providing what I started it off with, which was an IT tailored solution, repairing computers, bringing my knowledge and experience to the table, working with, in network infrastructures, installing servers as such, on the more serious side of things. And that's all it was. It was just your day-to-day IT solutions provider. I guess it was the big bang, to say the least. It was when my cousin Paul Strachan came on the scene, which was probably late 2018, 2019, with his company, which is international, based in New York, an investment company called Information Tech Associates. Step forward and it's like, Lee, I want to help you. I want to help you be success, like myself, another family relative. Let's make us successful together. So he got his old syringe and he pumped a load of green dollars, because that's what it is over there, into the business. And that's when the re-establishment of the business in 2019 became Galactica IT Group Limited. So the former name is still there in the background as a holdings account. But the new business is where it stands now, where it's myself and Paul merged together in joint partnership, running a family-run business. And what that was able to bring to the table was not just IT solutions. We're now exploring further services now. So we bring consultancy into the business now, for businesses from small to large. We do fiber installations now, and we're going to be working in the foreseeable weeks and in the long term with a leading telecoms provider. We do app development through a couple of the colleagues that we've got on the team now, and we also do bits and bobs from the security and access control elements. That includes fire panel installations, access control services, CCTV installations, you name it. So we've adapted and evolved in such a way where we're not just an IT provider anymore. We have stretched our wings out, more of a dual IT FM kind of role as a business, because IT is constantly evolving and things are changing with IT. They're merging very closely with these other industries now, because where all their systems are working around IT as well. Part of that, obviously, it's not just me and Paul that work in the business now. There's 8 other of us that work with us now as well. Because as we've grown with our client base, where we've got probably just over 2 handfuls of clients now, as we would both know, I can't do that on my own. Otherwise I'm going to drop dead. So it is where we stand now. We've just gone through a massive rebrand of the business, which is this new logo, new name, Group Galactica, even though we're still Galactica IT Group Limited. From its original recognition, which was originally designed by me back in 2017, we just literally changed everything, took the risk, the game changer as such, of our brand, probably a matter of a month ago. So even though I've been through the worst and through the darkest hours, I'm still prepared to take risks as such, because I've seen the worst to come, and I've learned from that. So I'm a bit of a gambler now. It's made me thick on the skin and also the blood.
Nicely, what a story!
Yeah, absolutely.
Just you're dead right. We can't do it on our own, And it looks like you've had the right support at the right time, and what a phenomenal success story. From this is the sort of thing you'd read in a book, right? From on the streets to running an expanding company. It's been a bit of an education, my friend, and no doubt a lot of our viewers will be shaking their heads, thinking, "Christ, I don't know how he's done that." But hats off to you for sure.
Yeah, it's great work, Lee. Really, I've got so many more questions I'd like to ask, and we're just running out of the time. That countdown is going quickly, and we will catch up. You're Essex-based. Both Nick and I are. Well, I'm actually sitting in Suffolk at the moment, but we're Essex-based businesses as well, and it'd be really good to meet you face to face and get you back definitely on a future show and explore how it felt being out there, and how you've moved forwards and grown it to 8 people strong now and on the way up, and there's so much in it. And Nick said he did right. There's a book in there somewhere, about the journey, because it's so inspirational and will inspire others. One last question before we have to thank you for coming on the show, or two actually. What would you say to people that were in your position? How would you summarize that in 30 seconds? What would you do to motivate them and help them to seek help or get up and brush themselves down, or whatever that may have been for you?
Now, that's a very good question, David. And this was also brought up on the XC yesterday in my main talk as well. And for those obviously that know people that are homeless on the street, and for those that will pick up on this, that homeless on the street, is simple wording is never give up, and it's not to make that too complex as such. Now, and when I say never give up, is if you've got goals and there's things that you've always wanted to do, set them as your targets. And because if you're a strong enough person, you set yourself a target, it will make you drive to that target, and you'll get that motto of never giving up as such. Now, every individual's experience, homeless or non-homeless, is different. Now, there may be a small minority that will suffer or move similar avenues like I did and be fortunate. Some won't. Now, a good example is mine, and using that as an example is a good way to pull yourself out of it. But every person's journey is different, and they can achieve if they got mentally pull themselves out of that dark tunnel as such. Look at the light and pull themselves out of it. Because if you're stuck in that dark and you can't find your way out, you're going to be stuck in that, as I called earlier, that vortex for a very long time. It's having the mental stability to be able to pull yourself out of it.
Yeah, that's something we'll be digging into more depth, certainly with our second guest. Never give up, mate. I think absolutely. I think that rings true for all businesses, and especially, of course, if you've come from a very, very tough place. Lee, it's been great. It's been great. One of the frustrations with the show is we are always up against time. So many questions that you want to ask, but we don't have time for it. So we'll just have to have you back onto the show another time, my friend.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. You're always welcome to reach out whenever.
Lee Strachan, thank you for joining us this morning. We'll hopefully catch you around the XC show later today. Do join in, by the way, for the breakfast show from 9:30 for XC. Thank you, Lee. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers now.
Thanks.
Well, there we go, Nick. Wow, inspirational. What a story.
Great stuff, mate. Great stuff. And so kind to share. And there's so many questions I want to ask our next guest as well on the back of that discussion. I remember a couple of years ago, probably more years now, I was coming out of London, right? A busy day, and I was on my way on the tube. I was coming down the steps in the tube, on the Central Line, and I had a bit of time. Right? I wasn't rushing back for anything, and there was a guy at the bottom of the stairs. Okay, like often there is on the tube. This guy sitting there. So I thought, well, I'm a communicator, right? So I've got a bit of time. So I sat down with him, and we started having a chat. Right? His name was Patrick, and this is going back a few years. We're having a chat, saying how you doing. I gave him some money, and he was really grateful and quite frustrated and angry about his position. And during the conversation, he said to me, "Nick, you're only 2 bad decisions away from living on the streets."
Yeah.
Right? It looks like Lee was, really unfortunate, but and that kind of stuck with me. Only 2 dodgy decisions away from being where he was, and we got quite emotional. And he said, do you know what this is? I'm so pleased you stopped to talk, because people rarely do. He said, this is the first time in as long as I can remember that I've heard my own voice.
Wow. He
just hadn't had anyone to talk to, right? And so he'd forgotten what he sounded like. Oh, mate, that was about 15 minutes that changed my life.
Yeah. And a story that you'll remember and probably take to your grave as well. It resonates and you remember it. And I suppose, we've got to be thankful for what we have. And we want to inspire everybody and move forwards. But 2 moves away, or as Lee put it, that one thing changed his life. It was the losing his job, becoming made redundant. Probably wasn't the business's fault. They were probably having their own struggles and issues, or whatever it may have been. They had to make that harsh decision, and it ended up, obviously, unfortunately for Lee, not in a good place. But he turned it around, and he made it a success. And he
no doubt, over the last 12 plus months, there's a load of people in a similar position. The pandemic has certainly not helped a lot of people renting, and the end of the ban on renter evictions comes to an end at the end of this month. So come the end of May, it could get pretty bad for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know people out there, do reach out, make sure they're okay. Share the love around. We're here as humans to help each other, support each other, whether it's in business or personally as well. Now, Nick, before we bring on our next guest, who's sitting patiently backstage, what did you pick out in the news this week? Was there anything of interest? We talked about Tesla and Bitcoin. What is Elon Musk saying in his almighty world?
Yeah, so the dude buys a load of Bitcoin, 1.5 billion load of Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes, crazy, because the idea was that he will sell Teslas. You can buy your Tesla with Bitcoin. Now he's turned around and says, well, actually, it seems like for environmental reasons, I'm no longer going to allow you to buy your Tesla using your Bitcoin. He's supposedly going to hang on to his $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, but it's an odd world out there. The housing market's gone a bit crazy. There's more buyers than there are sellers at the moment, so how prices are going crazy. The end of renter evictions is coming, but the UK economy picks up. I can see,
absolutely.
With a kind of a wry smile, because of course it has, of course it has. The shops were closed for bloody months,
Absolutely. You couldn't go and buy a beer. You couldn't go to the gym. You couldn't walk down the high street and see a single shop with a door open. But it is picking up. We are seeing a transition, hopefully, into a brave new world, as we keep hearing those words that have stuck with me all week that we heard from Johnny Burkett from Exie. We're entering a brave new world, and absolutely we are. Okay, I think we're going to have a quick ad break, Nick. And when we come back, we'll bring our next guest onto the show. Here we go. Our next guest has been sitting waiting patiently, but let's welcome. Now I'm going to try and get the pronunciation right here, and I'm sure I'm going to get corrected. Carole Douillot. Is that good enough, Carole? Or are you going to correct me on that and tell me I got it totally wrong?
Carole Douillot.
Douillot.
Oh,
Douillot. You know, you have to think, do you speak English? And then you've got that. That's it.
We're halfway there. Yeah, I got the couple of the right letters in the right places, and then
it was dreadful, David. Dreadful.
Okay, I'll take it. Anyway, Carole, welcome to the breakfast show with Nick and myself. Thank you very much for joining us. CD coaching. We met a number of months ago, actually, at a virtual expo. Where we were helping and supporting Writtle University College, something we both obviously have passion for, helping students on their journey, reaching out, building a business, starting a business, maybe finding the right work placement, getting those first few steps under their belt into a brave new world. And we got talking at this virtual expo, and I said, look, come on the breakfast show. Tell us about CD coaching, what you're doing, how you're helping people. So just get a little bit of background about Carole and how CD coaching come around and what you're doing and how you're helping people now.
Where to start? I really don't like this bit where you have to talk about yourself. It makes me cringe. In a nutshell, I taught for a long time, mainly in sixth form college. And then I was teaching French. And as you know, French is quite tough as a language and as an A-level. So it was going down, not many students enrolling. And then all of a sudden, a new role emerged, which is called Progress Coach. So I applied, got the job, did it for 3 years, helped hundreds of students. And the help was actually more around their mental health than anything else. It's quite sad, actually. But they want help for their academic studies, but actually what's holding them back is really... And also, you know, what's happening at home, like parents divorcing, things like that. You'd be amazed how much that affects them at that age. Anyway, then I decided, oh, I love this. I love what I'm doing. I'm not trained and I want more of this, but on my own terms. And then so I resigned, started training. That was September 2016. And since then, since November 2016, I've been coaching. Created CD coaching, which means it's very tough to find a name. And as you see, my name is not very good. So I couldn't go, hey, Carole, do your coaching? People will go, what? So I use my initials, but they really mean collaborative dialogue.
Excellent.
So yeah, and it's a very good way of framing coaching. It's really a dialogue. It's a conversation. It's not really me telling people what to do or how to be. People often think this is what people would get when they go and see a coach, someone to tell them what to do, give me some advice. And that's not what we do. And what I like about Lee's story is when he mentioned to look at the light at the end of the tunnel, but some people don't see the light. So the coach's role sometimes is to show this light that people don't see, you know. So it's finding these inner resources that they have inside them and putting them out there for them. So look, you have that, you can do this. It's really giving a bit of motivation to them. So I don't know, is this answering your question?
I would say so. I would say so. It gives a bit of context from where you've been and where you are now, Carole. It sounds like, and I have had a transition in my business. I went from, you know, earning money to doing something that I'm really passionate about, and I can sense that that's happened with you, from progress coach to collaborative dialogue. I'm a big fan of conversations. But do you find it's that younger audience, so the students, do you find that they struggle to have a kind of an open conversation, certainly face-to-face conversation?
Yeah, I mean, one student, she was told she had to come and see me. And we had like weekly sessions. And in the beginning, she was like, how was that all about? I just want to hang out with my mates. And then she got hooked. She was seeing me all the time. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize how much I would get from these conversations. And often it was just like very quick check-in, but it's like having someone there who you can just say a few things and then carry on. And I would say, the trouble at that age is not a trouble. They want to show the world that they can do this by themselves and that they don't need help. they can do it, which is very, very to their honor. But the problem is they don't always have the mental capacity. They don't always see things that when you get older with experience, you can see. And reaching out for them is like a sign of weakness. And we all know, especially when you have a business, that if you don't reach out, well, you're not going to go very far. So it's getting that them to understand. And what I found out is when I switched and became self-employed, a lot of parents would reach out and said, oh, my son or my daughter would really do with your help. And guess what happened?
Yeah, it grew. Absolutely.
No, guess what happened?
Go on, tell us.
Well, the students, the kids wouldn't reach out. They didn't want to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because through the school context, they're forced, so they go, they get the help. But otherwise, not many would listen to the parent. But on the back of that, some 19-year-old would reach out and said, I want coaching. One girl was like 13. She reached out to me. She wanted coaching at 13. And the mum said, no, you can't do it. So we couldn't do it. So it's all things, it's quite difficult. There's this perception of it. And so I wish more students. So my business has changed, actually. So I still help students on a voluntary basis because, again, then they can get it. So they do it. And that's through university mainly. And otherwise, it's more individual, managers and corporate clients I have now.
Carole, tell us a little bit, coming from a world offering support to businesses in a similar way to what you do, people can get confused between the differences between advisors, mentors, coaches, consultants. They all kind of sit in a bubble.
And counselor.
And counselor, yeah, absolutely. They all do different things. And just before you answer the question, I just want to tap on one thing you mentioned about surrounding yourself with people. And, some of the best people in the world, the best entrepreneurs that we are all aware of. It's about the team. They have limited capacity, limited time, limited knowledge and experience. And it's the people they put around them that make that business super successful. And in a way, they will be those advisors, those consultants, those coaches, those mentors, and those counselors. But from your perspective, you touched on it earlier about being a coach and not giving them the answers. And that's the key here, being a coach. Just tell us, in your own words, what a coach is really trying to achieve.
So it's providing a space, a thinking space. And most people don't stop and think. You'd be amazed. Or they've been there and chatter like the inner critic and things going, but they don't actually pause, find the time. And people will say to me, that's the only time I'm allowing a break in my life. Busy, all busy. So first of all, you provide the space. And then you provide a mirror. What you're hearing, you reflect back. This is what I'm hearing. This is what you're saying. And they're like, wow, I didn't realize this were my thoughts. Because when you put it in the open and you verbalize it, it starts coming out. And they're like, whoo, I didn't know I was going to go there with these thoughts. And then we go, okay, what do we do with that? Okay. So my role is really to guide the conversation and say, okay, so now we're at that point. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go with this? So it's kind of guiding the conversation gently and then checking in. Okay, how are we doing with that? Is this working for you? Is this conversation useful? Because some people could just blabber their story, like, oh, and this happened to me and da. So, okay, right. Hang on. What do we want to do with this? Where do you want to move forward and do with this conversation? And then most often than not, they get insights and then they go, okay, from now on, I'm going to try X, Y, Z, or I'm going to be more this. And then the role of the coach is to really challenge. Say, oh, okay, so you haven't done that for 20 years on your own, and now you're telling me you're going to do it? So how can you commit to that? So it's really like accountability as well. So you see sometimes on your own, you say, yeah, from now on, I'm going to do this, and you don't do it. So having a coach there is really like maybe holding your hand for a bit, and then the coach goes, okay, now you can do it on your own. You're good. You can go. And that's what coaching shouldn't last for a long, long time, but sometimes it does, because people actually, you know, like you're a business owner, sometimes it's good to have this sounding board and to carry on this journey of self-development. So some clients I've had for a few years now, because they keep growing.
It does sound like a great process to go through. I've had business coaching in the past, and I think that the most useful part of that was exactly what you said, that space to think, and most definitely the accountability. You know, someone who's not afraid to ask the slightly tougher questions. That if I was asking myself those questions, I'd probably be a bit weaker in the demands. You know, it's sometimes it's much easier as an external person to see through the noise. But I'm wondering how much of the work are you trying to balance? Well, I'm a coach, but I feel at the moment like a counsellor. Do you have to kind of keep checking yourself, thinking, well, I'm not a counsellor. That's not my job. That's not what I'm trained for. I'm all about the coaching.
So there's a load of crossover, obviously, because we're talking about the brain. So there will be crossover. What we need as coaches, what we need to make sure is not to just stick into the past. That's the role of a counselor. Okay, let's resolve the past, the old issues, the old patterns, you know what. But we have to go into the past because it will inform why the person is this way, or, you know, like the story we heard from Lee, that would inform maybe some of his beliefs or how he sees the world. And so we go into the past to get information, but then again, what do we do with information is about the present and the future. So that's the main difference. But I think there's also a misconception around the coaching world that, we don't talk about emotions, we don't talk about these things. But actually, we all made of emotions, we're humans. So we can't just park that and say, okay, no, that's counselor. Where we see that it's counseling, if the person is not in a mental capacity to see things, to move forward. So like if they're highly, highly depressed, then maybe they need to see someone else and you signpost them. But I've had clients who had therapy and seeing me at the same time.
Yeah, so from both sides. Now, being Mental Health Awareness Week as well, it's obviously a big thing. And Nick and I were talking about it at the beginning of the show. And I popped a question really to Nick, but probably more for you, because obviously everyone has their own opinions around this. And we all know it's really important to support people who are reaching out for help. But lots of people don't reach out for help as well. Do you think over the years, because we've made it more acceptable to talk about mental health, we've brought the awareness to the surface, people are more happy to talk about it? I go back, say, 25 years ago when I started up in business, and, you know, I don't ever really remember it featuring in my business in the early stages, and even probably into the early 2000s. You know, we had 40, 50 staff, etc. And yes, obviously we'd listen to them and talk to them, but it wasn't like it is today. Do you think that's just because now we are accepting it? Do you also think that the way the world, we've pushed ourselves, technology, it's much busier out there, there's so much more noise, the expectations upon us are much higher to deliver? Do you think that's applied the pressure, and that's why we're now bursting a little bit and wanting to talk about it? And I say it's subjective, isn't it? Because everyone's going to have a different opinion.
So the truth is, if there was no issue, like people are happy, my job wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah, of course.
All these jobs wouldn't be necessary, and the world would be a better place, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, yeah. And as I was saying, students, they put so much pressure on themselves. Their expectations. When I was a student, I was like, yeah, I get a pass, good enough. Yeah, I didn't care. And I don't know where this pressure is coming from. I mean, if my own child was like, I need to nail this, and I was like, chill. And they put so much pressure on themselves. It's scary. It's very, very sad, actually. And most people do that to themselves as well. And the role of the coach is like also to put things in perspective and say, so you're killing yourself, you're going to burn out in your job. What do you value? What's important? They say, oh, my family, my friend, but I don't spend time with them, or when I'm with them, I'm not present because I'm constantly thinking about work. And so, yeah, it's all about boundaries. And during the pandemic, the boundaries have just gone Yeah. So you didn't have people who say, I used to have my commute, I used to have my bike ride to work or my walk to work to do this process of thinking. Now there's even more less time to think because people are always on this treadmill, right? Constantly. So yeah, go ahead.
And now we carry our world in our pockets, right? We're always contactable. You know, the moment you stop to think, you know, you get a notification go off on your device, and then you're drawn, you're lost, you're pulled into something. And a big subject of that I get involved in is how much of a distraction from your kind of real life your device potentially is. Still, massive benefits if you use it as a tool, but yeah, I would not be surprised, Carole, if the presence and our addiction to our devices isn't fueling a lot of the trouble that we see in a mental sphere.
And I think the way we operate as well is lots of multitasking. So we keep doing this, that, we're all over the place. And that's tiring, and it actually doesn't work. And it's all this focus on production. I need to be productive. If I'm reading a book, taking some time out, I'm not being productive, and people feel guilty. So it's a we need a big paradigm shift of the way we live. That's one of my mission is like to change even companies the way they operate, because if you think about it, all this mental health is creating lots of people missing work and not being engaged, and I think that's why companies have realized, okay, we need to do something about this. This is costing us money.
Yeah, how do we do that? But
they are. Do you think they are?
Go on, David. Go on. I've got so many questions. Go on.
No, I know they're flowing. I was going to say, but are we doing something about it? That I suppose was my question back to Carole. Are we doing something about it?
Well,
are we doing enough?
Oh, probably not enough. But this is why I love coaching, because whenever I coach someone, it's got the ripple effect. So the person will feel better. They'll be better in their relationship. If they're in a relationship, they'll be better parent because they will understand their kid better, and they will better at work. And then they will start seeing the world, not just like that, but better. And then that's the beauty. So I think the more coaching is integrating it as a normal practice, because whenever I coach someone, then they can go out and coach other people because they understand what is necessary, what are the skills necessary. So I think that, that's the first step. I think that's why coaching is really, I think is really important in our world. And some coaches are in primary school settings, teaching growth mindset. We never heard of growth mindset when we were kids. We're not praised for effort, we're praised for result. So you see, things are changing. And I think more and more the leaders are understanding that how to change the way we even promote people and thank people. Is the gratitude, so things are changing. I think it's a slow burner, but there's more awareness, and week like this, like mental health awareness, is certainly. I hope companies are not just using it as a tick box exercise, because that's defeating the object, that they really, really value it and understand it.
Yeah, it'd be a real shame if Monday comes around and says, no, we've done with that mental health stuff. That was last week. Now we're back to the grindstone. Do you think that's enough, Carole? Do you think that you say it's a slow burn? And I look at my world in battling the zombies in the technology world, and I'm losing that battle. Right? Are we winning or are we losing this? Is it too slow? Are businesses too slow on the uptake, or are we getting there?
Well, I've got hope and faith in me, so I would say yes, slow but steady. Like maybe we're not seeing the result yet, and that's again the growth mindset. Yeah, we're not there yet, but we are on the right track, and that's what we have to look at. So I'll be more positive than negative, but people need to realize that being productive is not the end of be all, because that's how. So you need a big shift in the mindset of people. And going back to Lee's story, I think, you ask him, how did he turn things around? And I think he had the belief in himself that he could turn things around. So if any of these people listening got the belief, yeah, I can turn things around, that's a big part of the journey. And if companies think, okay, I've got a big problem there, how can I turn things around? I know I can turn things around. Who do I reach out to? Who can I bring into my team? And yeah, so I really think, people say, oh, there's more and more coaches. Well, because it's needed, because it's a growing industry. Sadly, it shouldn't be growing. We agree about that, but that's the state of fact.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay, Carole. Sadly, we have reached. We've only got a few moments before the show ends today. It's been fabulous having you on here, and hearing some of your anecdotes and stories, and kind of putting things into perspective for not just me and Nick, but for everybody that's listening and watching this as well. So, Carole, thank you very much for joining us. I know our paths will cross again very soon in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carole.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there we go, Nick. Exciting stuff. Another show drawing to a close. And very shortly, we're going to be back on the air. We've got like half an hour break.
I love it, mate. Absolutely love it. What great conversations to have. Right? Just so I'm blown away by the people's generosity to share of their knowledge and experience. It's no holds barred, right? People could just come on and tell us how it is in their real world. Phenomenal to speak to Lee, to speak to Carole, and it makes you want to think. Coaching definitely the way forward. And I think anybody who kind of feels as though they're lacking that space, they're a little bit stuck, I think should reach out. I'd reach out to Carole, not me, because she's definitely the professional.
Absolutely. Not that you're not.
Just have to let people know how they get hold of Carole and her expertise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Carole can pop that into the chat box, and we'll share that with everybody as well, so they can reach out. Lee can also do the same, so we can make sure we can connect the dots and make sure you can have and continue that conversation. Now, Nick, a couple of last things before we wrap up today's show. We're rebranding. Well, we're kind of rebranding. We're taking Uni and we're moving it one step forward, because Uni wasn't really set up for a business breakfast chat show, was it?
No, it wasn't. We pivoted before we pivoted. Yeah.
So we are changing. In the next several weeks, you'll be seeing a rebrand around this, and we're going to ask you all to start following our new launch of our Chatbox Productions, which is all about having great conversations, and not just about supporting businesses, but supporting all different types of organizations and individuals throughout the UK and beyond as well. So look out for that rebrand that's coming in the next few weeks. I'm super excited, because now we're going to have a proper broadcast platform, and we're going to be having so many more great guests joining us on the show and making it what it is as well. Yeah,
look out for Chatbox Productions. I love it already. Mate. Chatbox Productions. That sounds like us. That's where we're going.
It sounds big and grand, and hopefully it will be. And finally, we are back next Thursday morning as normal for the breakfast show from 8 until 9, still on the same channels. We're not changing anything at this point in time. We'll give you plenty of notice, but we are going off air for 30 minutes. And then you can come back and watch us on these channels through Facebook, through YouTube, or you can go to the XE and sign up for xe.co.uk and register yourself. Go and sit in the auditorium and watch Nick and I on the big screen, where we'll be doing another hour chat show with lots of more guests, talking about the fantastic XE Expo, how it's been running for the last few days, talking to some of the speakers that are on stage today and some of the exhibitors and sponsors. So it's going to be a great hour. That's from 9:30 British summertime. I think that's it.
Yes, just want to say thank you very much to Lee Strachan and for Carole Douillot. If you want to get hold of Carole, the web address is cdcoaching.co.uk. That's cdcoaching.co.uk. Just get in touch. She sounds magic.
Absolutely. Brilliant, Nick. That's it for this week from the Dave and Nick Uni TV show. See you guys in half an hour if you're going to join us. Bye-bye for now.